warming up in the crock pot because the smell is amazing. And I took a coffee filter and some kitchen twine and tied it up for my little spice pack because that's what I had at home to use. Now this is about a half gallon of cider, and about half of that works really well for 2 good-sized drinks. I'm gonna go ahead and drop about 2 or 3 tablespoons, whatever you like, for brown sugar to sweeten it up. Take my whisk and give that a bit of a stir to help melt the brown sugar down. I have the crock pot set on low so it can heat up gently. And then our spice pack is going in, and the string is tied long enough so that it hangs out, so that when you put the lid on, after it gets good and wet, you can just pull it out and not have to dig around for it. There's orange peel and lemon peel, a couple of cinnamon sticks broken down, and some allspice berry, and a little bit of salt, just a pinch, and some really nice warming spices in there. Oh. We are going to use a cinnamon stick to stir that up. That is our delicious warm mulled cider. And I'm gonna let that go in the crock pot over there for a couple of hours, and while it's doing its thing, we're gonna make a craft.
Okay, today we're going to be doing a craft. We're gonna be making an upcycled sock pumpkin. So this can be made from mostly things that you'll find in your house, or you can go outside and you can find. What we're gonna start with is a sock. You can use an old sock, or you can even use a sweater sleeve. And what we're gonna do is we're going to cut about 5 to 7 inches off the top, and we're gonna cut it right straight across. So once we have this strip of sock, we're gonna turn it inside out, and we're gonna take the cut edge and we're gonna sew along the end. So what I'm using to sew today is embroidery thread because it's really thick and easy to sew with and strong. But if you don't have embroidery thread, you could even use dental floss if you wanted, but some sewing thread is going to be a little bit too weak, and you'll see why. So I'm just going to sew straight across here. Okay, so now that we have roughly sewn across the raw edge of this, we're just gonna pull it tight. And once you've pulled it tight, I'm just gonna tie it off. All right, so after you've done that, we're gonna then flip it back inside out, and you have the bottom of your pumpkin. So it kind of is weighted. We're going to fill the bottom with rice. This is optional. If you don't have rice, you could use beans. After I've added the rice, I'm going to take some stuffing and fill it until it's nice and plump. So now that I've added all my stuffing, I'm going to sew across the top here, just like I did at the bottom. Okay, and once you have sewn your top, you're going to pull it tight again, just like we did at the bottom to close it off, and then tie off your string. All right, and at this point we're going to cut off this top. So you're going to take your scissors, you're going to just go right across the top here and cut off all this extra sock. All right, and if you have some loose ends, you can give them a trim, but all of this is going to be covered up. All right, now that we have this lumpy ball of sock, we're going to add our segments. Okay, so we are going to take our thread, and what we're going to do is we're going to go straight up through the bottom, up to the top, pull it through, then we're going to wrap it around and do the same thing again. So I'm going to do this 6 times to do a 6-segment pumpkin, and then when I pull it tight, it gives me that section. I'm going to do the same thing. At this point, the bottom looks like this, top looks like this, and you've got a little pumpkin shape. So I'm going to tie off this string, and then we will move on to the final part, the top. Okay, to make the top of the pumpkin here, you can really use whatever you can find. I found this stick in my yard that I'm going to chop off to make a stem. And so this little guy will be my pumpkin stem. I also found some scrap fabric laying around that I'm going to use to cut out leaves. So I have some burlap here. I'm just going to roughly cut a leaf shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so now that I've got my leaf shapes cut out, I'm going to take my hot glue gun and I'm going to glue them to the top wherever I decide they should go. So then we've got our little leaves on there, and the final piece of what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my stem to the top. I'm going to stick my stem on here and just hold it for a second until it dries enough to stand on its own. And then you have your fall pumpkin.
So cute.
So you can use, like I said, old sweaters, you can use socks to make these. Now we've got all these additional great sock parts we can do other crafts with. For stuffing, you can improvise whatever you can find. This is from a stuffed animal my pets tore apart. And then you can really just make your pumpkin out of whatever you find. And that's our fall upcycled pumpkin craft.